Mariners win 10-8. They improved to 12-16 on the year. They do salvage one game in this 3-game series against the Blue Jays. And I think you could probably hear the relief in my voice. I want to talk about the word relief in a second. Not because of pitchers, but something I was thinking about. So this is how this happened. Top of the first inning, welcome back Taylor Trammell. I will say we can kind of talk about it in a little bit. They were a little fortunate to have 3 runners on for this, but Taylor Trammell grand slam makes it 4-0. What a sweet way to come back to the team. Just one of the great guys in baseball too. So that was awesome. The 4-0 feeling did not last very long. Mac Chapman doubles home 2 runs immediately in the bottom of the first. Holy crap, is that guy hot? Bo Bichette, bottom of the second, clobbers a 3-run homer. They say that went 460 feet. I felt like a lot longer than that. Makes it 5-4, bottom of the third. Another 3-run score. Not looking good. It is 8-4 Toronto. The Mariners come back. Teoscar Hernandez, homers to right center. Amazing moment for him, I'm sure, because of one, all the moments he's had in Toronto, and 2, because he'd been awful this series. Makes it 5-8. Cal Raleigh, homers to right center in the top of the 8th inning after an error to make it 8-7. Top of the 9th, down to their last strike, J.P. Crawford singles home Jose Caballero to tie the game at 8-8. And then the top of the 10th, big dumper, just smokes a home run to right to give the Mariners the lead and ultimately the victory. All right. For real quick, before we get into positive and negatives, I wanted to talk about the word relief that I just felt, because I definitely did let out a sigh of relief. And I think that's bad. Not because it's like, oh, it's way too early to feel relief or anything like that. It's because this is supposed to be fun, right? We're supposed to be having a good time with this. You should never feel more relieved that they didn't lose than joy that they won. Not the same thing for baseball players. It's a business for them. That's how they're making their living. It's totally fine for them that they are relieved or, losses should be harder on them than it should be on us. Don't get me wrong. We're all fans and we want them to do well. Wouldn't be here if we aren't, right? But, just kind of remember that this is a baseball game. If you ever get to the feeling where you take it so seriously that your mood gets affected by how the team plays, like more than a couple of hours or something like that, like you can't help but concentrate on what's going on, maybe take a break. Tell you a quick story. I used to be like this for the Seahawks. Like, my entire mood for the week would be based on whether or not the Seahawks won or lost a game. And that's bad. And it probably played into my depression. And I don't want to get too deep into this, but I had pretty bad depression. And one of the things that I kind of realized, and look, there was chemical stuff going on with a lot of people. Medication very much helped. But one of the things that really helped was realizing that as much as I love sports, and obviously I do it for a living. I cover it for a living. It's still just a game. It's still just a game. And I will be super high and passionate when they win and super low when they lose still. I'm rooting always. They are a big part of my life. The Seahawks, the Mariners, the Kraken. Please win tonight, Kraken. I'd love a Game 7 victory. All of that stuff. But I just wanted to say, as I felt that relief of them winning, hey, just a game. And if it ever feels like it's too serious, maybe just sit out a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that, especially in baseball where there's 162 games. Even in football where there's 17 now. Just something I wanted to bring up. All right, let's talk about the negatives real quick because I want to spend a lot of time on the positives. Marco Gonzalez was bad. And look, we all kind of knew this was coming a little bit, right? Because one, Toronto's lineup with their right-handed hitters, that's a tough matchup. That's a tough matchup for a lot of people. For a lefty who throws 88, that's a real tough matchup. Real tough. And especially if you add in the fact that he was so successful those last two starts, there's going to be regression. Now, it would have been nice if the regression was a little better than this, but this was a tough one for him. I think he'd be the first to admit it. It's kind of interesting, too, that the earned runs only end up being 5 because of an error by Sam Haggerty, who just made a terrible throw to Marco Gonzalez covering first base. But if you watched him pitch, like, he earned those runs. Those were earned. He deserved to give those up. Deserved run average, I'm sure, was just fine in this one, or high in this one. But it wasn't great. It was not great, and it is one of the reasons why I think they do have to look at getting a new pitcher, acquiring a new starting pitcher. By the way, it's worth pointing out that one of the reasons why Taylor Trammell is back, or the roster move, I should say, he was going to come back one way or another. But Easton McGee got placed on the injured list with I believe it was a forearm issue. It was either a forearm or elbow issue. The reason I don't remember is because I'm calling bull crap. I hope he's okay. The timing, to quote my good friend Michael Scott, is nothing short of predominant. I do wonder if there's some shenanigans happening here, but be interested to see who's starting next, because Flexen did pitch 2 innings today, 43 pitches. I think with some off day stuff, he probably can still be on schedule, but pretty interesting. I would still guess Flexen makes the next start. If it's not Flexen, I wouldn't doubt if they gave Brian Wu a shot, who's been pitching really well in AA lately. Could see it. Or just a bullpen day. Very interesting that McGee goes on the injured list. I'm calling a little bit of shenanigans here. We'll never know. But yeah. Tommy La Stella, really poor game. Sam Haggerty, really poor game. Eugenio Suarez really struggled, by the way. I don't know if I could hate Eugenio Suarez in the second spot in the lineup anymore. That's just not, it doesn't make any sense to me. I get why you want him in the middle of the lineup because you want that power. But in the second spot with his swing and miss, I don't know. Worth pointing out that Ty France was once again out of the lineup, apparently dealing with the stomach bug. Hope he's feeling better because he did get a chance to pinch hit. Didn't get a hit. But that's one of the reasons why. And of course, Julio did miss this game with the back issue. Not a big surprise. Apparently, this was scheduled a day off for him a while ago. I'm still thinking the back had something to do with it, obviously, but hopefully he's back for Tuesday against AA Midland. He's still their best player. All right, the positives. Let's start with the pitching real quick because the bullpen, hats off. I take my hat off and show you my terrible hair, but I'm not going to. Great. Penn Murphy was great. Gabe Spire was great. Chris Flexen did a really nice job. Justin Topa was very good. Paul Sewald wasn't exactly dominant, but got the job done, and a great job by Matt Brash. A great job by Matt Brash in a very high leverage situation. That slider he threw Bichette to strike him out. I mean, come on. Come on. This guy has a chance to be one of the very best relievers in baseball someday. So the version he is now is pretty darn good. I don't think there's ever been a pitcher I've seen with a more misleading 4.85 ERA. Because you saw once again, even the hit today, Teoscar has to catch that baseball. I know you're playing deep. I know it ended up not costing him. But man, that's got to get caught. Somebody's got to get out there and catch that baseball. But the bullpen was great today. One of the best all-around bullpen days I've seen. You get against that lineup, which is playing very well right now, to get 7 innings, of shutout baseball. Whew, it was big on a day that Marco gave you basically nothing. Awesome to see. Good for those folks. And the nice thing is you get a day off, so a lot of those guys will be fresh for that series against the Double A Midlands. I'm not calling them the name, folks. They're too bad. All right, positives on offense. So JP Crawford just has the one hit and he just draw a walk. What an at bat. What an at bat to end that game. Look, for as flawed of a player as JP Crawford is, and how much I would have liked to have seen them upgrade the shortstop position, he's playing outstanding baseball right now. Do not look at that 238 average. Never look at average like as the indicator of how well a player is doing when on base percentage and all sorts of advanced stats are right there. But like it's not indicative of how well he's played. Would I like to see him drive the baseball more? Sure. Would I like to see a little more range at shortstop? Yeah, I would. But I will, if you get this every month from JP Crawford, you're going to be just fine. Just fine. Again, Teoscar with the homer. That was outstanding. Just and good for the Blue Jays fans. I'm not surprised, but like he was a very popular player there, a very frustrating player to many Blue Jays fans, but a player that was liked there. And he should be liked here too. I know the numbers aren't outstanding over the first month, but I think you've seen those flashes that suggest that he's capable of big things. So on pace for right around a 40 homer season, by the way. So you could take that. Amazing to see Taylor Trammell. And what a great catch he made too with 2 outs, I believe. It was either with 1 out or 2 out up against that wall. He's a good player. I really like Taylor Trammell. The results have not been there for him as a major league player. But I still believe he could be a starting outfielder. And I think he needs to play. Maybe not against left-handed pitching, but I do want him in the lineup more often than not because he's a good defensive player. And there's also something to be said about like his vibe. You know, the Eugenio Suarez good vibe joke, whatever. Not a joke really, but you know, reference. There's something about the guy. I don't know him personally at all, but everyone I talk to just raves about this dude. Just claims he is the best dude in the entire world. And, you know, is that more important than talent? No, not on a baseball team. But does it matter? Sure. I think so. Especially in a sport like baseball where you're playing so many games together. Having good dudes around, having good people around. That's big. Great to see Colton Wong finally starting to have the hits fall. Is he scorching the baseball? Absolutely not. But to say we can't be beggars here is the understatement of understatement. And if he wants to get a couple of knocks every night, that's going to help. Like still 171, 263, 186 over the first month. Massive disappointment. But it's getting better. And that's all we can really ask for right now because there's nothing that has been banked. There's nothing we can do. You cannot replace what has happened there. So, okay, big dumper. Oh man. It was especially great to see what he did today after yesterday because he was pretty bad yesterday. 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts is pretty darn bad. But you just see what he's capable of, like with the power. Why anybody throws him anything below the knees is beyond me. I guess it's because, you know, secondary pitches. You can't strike this dude out. There's a lot of length to his swing. He's never going to be like a 290, 300 hitter type because he swings and misses a bunch. But when you miss low to him, good luck. Because he's a 70 power hitter. Maybe more. No, I can't go 80 grade. But I'm going 70 power. He's the type of guy I think someday who could hit not 50, but like 40 home run seasons are well within range. And maybe that is 80 power. Maybe that is. Just kind of depends on the era and the year and how inflated the bouncy ball is. But there's no doubt that there's plenty of pop in that bat, especially as a left-hander. And if you leave anything at the knees, especially if it's straight, he can mollywop it. And it's just so great to have an answer at catcher. Because look, I grew up with Dan Wilson. And Dan Wilson was a flawed baseball player, to be sure. But he was a great defender, and he was a steady presence behind the plate. And even in his worst offensive seasons, it was, well below average, but it wasn't like what they've gotten from the catcher position in the past some years. Cal Raleigh's here to stay. If I could extend anybody on this team right now, it'd be Cal Raleigh. Now, I think he knows that. And I think that they will have a tough little negotiation here because a lot of teams would have a lot of interest in Cal Raleigh, but they've got him under, unfortunately, because of the horrible way that contracts work, they have him under control for a very long time. And yes, it is unfortunate. I want baseball players to be paid. Billionaires have plenty. That was a good win. That was a fun win. Even if it's not like a massive win, because if you want to argue that on April 30th, 2023, at 2:29 p.m. as I'm recording this, if you want to argue that there's no such thing as a massive win, okay. Fair enough. But you can't take away how fun that was and how much that changes. We'll use that word vibes again. I think my buddy Turner Wingo on Twitter brought this up. Like, sure, it's just one game in April. But how are you feeling right now if this game ends at the 8-4 that it looked like it might? Pretty different. You can BS me and try and tell me that it wouldn't. I don't believe you. I know for sure. And if you are a I don't want to say joyless person or but you probably are a robot, and that doesn't sound like a whole heck of a lot of fun. Man, what a fun win that was. They get a day off, and now they get to play the worst roster I've ever seen. And folks, I've been covering baseball for a long time. To quote an old Keith Jackson commercial, I've been calling games since your grandma met your granddaddy. No, I haven't been doing it that long. But, oh my gosh. Anything but a series win here is a massive disappointment. And I don't think I've ever been able to say that about one team. Because so many things can happen in baseball. So many things. Losing 2 of 3 to this team is impossible. Not impossible. Okay. I immediately take that back. Losing 2 of 3 to this team is indefensible. You can't. Not with the way they're playing right now. They are facing the 3 pitchers that are tolerable. Mason Miller, who I actually like long-term quite a bit. JP Sears, a back-end starter. Drew Rosinski has his moments. You got to win this series. And you really should sweep. And I'm sorry, Oakland. It's not fair that this has happened to you. Rob Manfred, step up, man. Do the right thing. Do the right thing and get a real owner in Oakland, because baseball should be in Oakland. You know what? Baseball should probably be in Las Vegas too. And I'd love to see baseball in Nashville as well, or back in Montreal. I'd love to have 32 teams, but the Oakland Athletics should be a thing forever and ever. Yeah, should be. Please hit like, please hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at Crawford_MILB. Sports Sometimes, my podcast, the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. This is a longer video than I was intending, but I had a lot of stuff to say. We should be so thankful for Big Dumper, folks. And good on the Mariners for letting that guy develop. They did a great job with this, much more so than a certain catcher that is now with the Guardians. Didn't do as good a job with the developing here. But Cal Raleigh, legit.